Mr. Russ Davenport, how are you?
Oh, I'm hearing echoes. I'm hearing echoes, Charlie.
No, I know. I because I'm okay. No, it's okay.
I'm good, mate. Yourself? How's things in the 305?
Things are good. Things are good.
Well, I stupidly decided once a year I think I could play rugby, Charlie.
Oh man, what a mistake!
And it doesn't always end up horribly. I think last year I lasted a half in the FAU rugby alumni game. Yesterday it was 10 minutes, and I was hurt about 2 minutes in, and I managed to keep on going. And before I was like, my knee doesn't feel so good. So I'm hobbling around with a full knee brace on today and a raked thigh, as you saw on Facebook. I don't know if you saw my picture on Facebook.
Yeah. Hey man, that's what you shouldn't put those things on. That's what the women's do.
It was just so colorful. It looked like a Costa Rican
it was,
flag.
Yeah. We always get a good clip of you of those games. Unfortunately, there was some misunderstanding, and we didn't take it.
That's all right. There were no highlights to see of me in this game.
Really? Okay.
Other than me getting raped by a clumsy college player. But no, it was a good fun weekend. A good fun day yesterday. Had by all. We got very lucky with the weather. All the rain missed us to the west. The alumni won. The current team showed some potential, especially the new boys.
With a new coach, we have to say.
It was tight. Yeah, Matt, we're going to have him on at some point. But it was a tight game till the last 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. But this is episode 48. Is that correct, Charlie?
No, it's incorrect.
You never updated the header on our notes. Look at you.
Oh, I did.
Oh, the second page. Oh, I see what you did. All right, I can't read. We're one episode away from 50, Charlie. Are we having a big celebration in 2 weeks?
I don't know, man.
I'm not doing this next week. I need a break already after 2 weeks.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We need to try and get this special guest that we've been promising for like 3 years.
Well, one thing we're going to need is one thing. Yeah, of course, it's Cagney's fault. But one thing we're going to need is, and I just haven't worked hard enough, is some decent sponsorship. So, I can spend more time doing production before, like we used to do in the good old days.
Yes. Time is money, though. And if you'd like to,
because looking back,
make it as good as it can be. Then
maybe we should do an episode looking back. The first 50, because when you look back,
good idea.
It's we have done some amazing things. I always remember, like for example, the Perry episode when we brought in Mike Friday in London. Perry was in California.
We did. That was probably the best. I think that's my favorite episode so far.
Oh, that was really awesome. And
although I saw there was another podcast that was going to have Mike Friday on soon, and they were touting that with 500-word promos. Good for them.
Oh, that was Lance. Lance may be watching.
Lance is doing good work. He's more of a national pod though than we.
Oh yeah. He's all over the place.
He's too big for Florida, Lance. He's got bigger aspirations than us. We're the best. We're the greatest Florida rugby podcast ever, and that will always be the case, I think, for now.
Well, maybe it's better to be number one somewhere,
We are, because we're the only one. Rugby started this week. We started, Charlie. Other than the alumni game, we had some friendlies around the state. Eckerd knocked off USF. That was a bit of a little surprised at that result. Maybe USF played some noobs, as we call it. Eckerd play D4 again this season, I think, right?
It's fairly early in this season, so
because they really don't have any colleges to play anymore. Because thanks to NSCRO going away, maybe one day, maybe we'll talk to Gavin about that in the future of NSCRO and St. Thomas. You're going to zoom in on those scores. Daytona beat Jacksonville without Skip Parr, without influential 8-man Skip Parr, because he was playing for us yesterday in the FAU alumni game. And Orlando beat Gainesville and a little friendly on the men's side of things. By the way, Teddy Chapman. Teddy Chapman was MVP of the alumni game. In his own mind, he had a hat trick. There wasn't an official MVP, but he had a hat trick of tries. So we just declared him MVP, even though we didn't really hand anything out. He always tends to.
That's one of our sponsors that we need. Teddy Chapman, you just mentioned one of the sponsors we need to get in here.
He still owes me a check from Surfing Seven, so that tells you how far behind he is. But maybe I should punish him as a punishment for being late with that check. I'll make him sponsor an episode.
Maybe we can book him for next season in advance.
What else? Oh, just this afternoon, I think Beanie, Devarius Miller, for Palm Beach Panthers, Riviera Beach, LSU, Alexandria, New Mexico Highlands, etc. He posted on Facebook today that he will be continuing his rugby career in Denver with the Denver Barbarians, who are Division II, but that's a club that's produced a ton of 15s and 7s Eagles throughout the years. So good stuff there, Beanie. I know we've got a bunch of players playing for 404 in Atlanta. I think there was 4. I saw a hybrid post that there was 4 Florida representatives last week. I know we have Mauro, Austin, and Shamar Smith's up there. I'm missing the 4th one. I'm sure somebody will put in the comments who the 4th one is, but yeah, Florida representing up there. That's the Atlanta's rugby ATL, I should say, their developmental squad. So those guys trying to earn themselves perhaps a decent contract for the MLR season.
Until we have our own team here, AGM, right?
Charlie. Did you attend this?
I did it. I attended
who knows?
Virtually.
Our own MLR team, you mean?
Yeah. Once we have our team,
someday,
everybody playing down here.
Maybe Gavin has some info on that. He always seems to have the inside scoop on things such as MLR coming to South Florida.
And if he doesn't, he'll just talk. So,
yes, he does like to do that. FYRU had their annual general meeting. We now have a board, which is cool. And Charlie, you check this out. So why don't you sort of go over, give us some of the key things that were discussed at the FYRU AGM?
Well, for one, it's a very important milestone because we haven't had an AGM for the youth in a while. And I think the group that has come together, here are the members of the board from all around the state. So it's a large group of people. And I have been like witnessing firsthand, every meeting and stuff. And I think it's really going to make a big difference. Just quickly to go over some things that sort of stand it out. One of the things I really liked is they decided that every game has to have an athletic trainer, or there is no game.
Huh.
Which is something that I don't know.
The real question is who is overseeing that? Is it the referee? Is it the visiting team? Is it Oh, I could say you're an athletic trainer, Charlie.
Well, come on, man. We always go by the honor system. I know.
It's a valid point. You hope teams will adhere to this rule, but we've seen half the teams don't even know the rules for the divisions. When I've ref 14s and 16s, we have arguments almost every game regarding what the rules are for that game.
Yeah, but all that kind of stuff has been sorted out, and I think that's gonna, that's one of the things that are gonna be making a difference. Another thing that this board has done is to really look into the disciplinary aspect of the game.
Love it.
With some new people coming in and getting it really organized. So there's because we had some issues last season with interpretation of what should happen. One of the things that they have decided is if you get 3 yellow cards in the season, that's a 1 game suspension. So it's all geared to proper behavior.
Yeah, we're going to call that the Brock Weaver rule, because
well,
he was racking up the yellows last year. He did get sent off at 1 point too, but he's pretty much the only reason this rule is in place. So we're going to call that the Brock Weaver rule in respect to him, because he's a great player, but he does get a little picked on a little bit for being so big.
I think,
although he does need to learn how to tackle a little lower. Obviously, state champion Brock Weaver. But that's good. Listen, you and I have discussed having issues in the past with the senior rugby about why they don't publish yellow and red cards on the website, especially the red cards on the website. And I'm hoping, Mr. Rick Comiskey, if you're listening, I think we should be addressing that. In that, every other union that I know, for the most part, the results of discipline and hearings are posted on a website where you can see, hey, this person, name in the name, was sent off in this game, and they are now banned for this many games.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
I know there's all sorts of things about privacy, etc. But listen, once you get sent off, I think you lose all that. There's Roy. Roy says it's coming. I think that should all be published.
Yeah, it is just a little bit of work.
Referee gets the report. Yeah, no, that's good. I like that. This one I'm not sure about. You and I can discuss this, Charlie.
This is like the mercy rule when you have a blowout game that after 42 points difference, the game should be stopped and go into a development game situation where basically, I guess, the coaches agree to get off the field, their main players, and just make it safer.
I mean, we've had this rule in the past. We've had a similar rule in the past. I'm not sure if it was 42 points. I think it might have even been less than that. And I'm not a huge fan of it. I think the coaches should understand that when a game gets to a certain point that, hey, but with that said, Charlie, we do have some serious egos in this state, as you and I both discuss frequently, where coaches just want to rack up as many points as possible. But all that does is potentially discourage kids from coming back to play again, and that's not something we want. So I think perhaps the score should stop scoring at 42-0.
Well, I think the underlining the underlining intention is because if it's such a big difference, one team is getting really crushed, and it sort of becomes unsafe. That's, I think, the underlying thing.
Well, listen, any game could be unsafe at any score, Charlie. The referee
that is
should
true.
have a lot more
that is true.
Way to say, okay, hey, coach, come on, let's make some changes here. But it seems like it's going to need agreement anyway, so it's just a proposal. We'll see if that passes.
I do understand it did pass. Charlie.
Oh, it did already.
So as you can see, we have a new website, which I am doing for disclosure. The union seems to be like in a good place going forward, with a lot of work done and a lot of work to do also. They also put out some of the drafts of the schedules. It's complicated,
Oh, I'm sure. We don't have any new teams on for that.
No, in
19s, right?
that sense.
I know you mentioned that slide, that other slide there.
This one. Oh, sorry.
No, it was a slide you showed earlier with it had, teams potentially for this year, next year, as well as 2024. Miami, I think it said Orlando.
Yeah, Orlando's not going to have a team. Miami is not going to have youth.
Or Fort Lauderdale, right?
Fort Lauderdale is going to have.
Well, it's disappointing because Orlando was obviously an existing team that faded. Excuse me, during the pandemic, but then there's never come back, which is a shame. As I think I mentioned last week, as being one of the 3 largest cities in the state, 3 or 4 largest cities, that they don't have a youth program is frustrating.
Okay, let's move on.
But
Ross.
Maybe somebody up there will get it going once again. What's that?
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Yes. But good to see the youth getting things cracking here.
Yes, definitely, yes.
Well, you said about the athletic training. That's pretty good. I like that. So events, tournaments. We've got all Florida Day coming up. We said the games are going now. They start really picking up next month. All Florida Day next month. I mean, in November. And then next month, the Sarasota Tens. And then Daytona's got that little Holiday Cup thing going on in December. We've also got some mini round robin stuff. But obviously, rugbyfl.com for all the upcoming schedules if you want to go check out a game. All right. So we mentioned no new youth teams, but we do have some new adult teams, Charlie.
Yes. Why don't we bring them in?
One is sort of not traditionally new in that they did exist previously, but are making a comeback. And then we have a new university team, which is, I'm going to say, different than perhaps any other team we've had so far, Charlie. The school is really putting some funding behind this. So let's bring in Tristan Gutman from Treasure Coast Armada.
Hi, Tristan.
Gavin McClevey. There's Tristan. Hi, Tristan. And then maybe we can mute Gavin if we need to, Charlie. If he gets out of control, just mute him.
Yes,
is he stuck?
Of course, but I don't know.
Of course,
seems like he. Turn on the lights, Gavin.
I thought the 954. I thought the 954 internet was a little better than the 305.
He's in the 305, man. Oh, he's in the 954.
We'll start with Tristan then.
Yeah.
He's in the 954. Yeah, kick his big head out, and we'll come back to him when he unfreezes himself. So Tristan, welcome to TFRO. I know you're super excited to be with us and make your debut on our fantastic podcast. Tell us, first of all, let's start with you and tell us a bit about your rugby background.
So I started when I was 16. I'm 27 now. So I started with Indian River Rugby Club. And when I started playing in 2012, there was kind of a youth, like a youth team, but it was mainly men's. And then a women's team started shortly after. And then throughout that, I kind of played for different teams. I played for Sebastian River High School, but I went to Vero Beach, so I wasn't technically allowed to play for Sebastian, but I kind of got away with it. So I played with Sebastian River High School for about 2 years, and then when I graduated, then I moved to, doing the women's clubs. So then I kind of played for everyone. I played for FIU. I played for FSU sometimes, kind of like everyone, Jacksonville. Like I kind of just play for whoever. But I've always been a part of Indian River Club. I've been with them for 10 years. I did the high performance team with Ronnie a couple times, and then as well as the youth high performance team back in like 2013 when we all went up to Georgia to represent with the youth. So I've done kind of my fair share of traveling around with rugby. I love the sport, so whenever I can play, I'm always playing.
So you decided to get your own team. It's time.
Yes. Right? So after Bill passed away, unfortunately, and rather suddenly and unexpectedly in 2018, that was kind of like it definitely hit home to like everybody, and we kind of felt that. And he was definitely a core part of Indian River, and it just kind of wasn't the same after that. Like the women's team kind of got kind of good for a little bit, like better.
Mercenary.
And however, the men's team was slowly kind of not really as great or had as many numbers as it did in years before. So just this past year, I just felt kind of like, I don't know, we had to play for different teams. Like my guys had to play for Claymores, which, like I said, we were very thankful that they offered, and I got to play for Orlando Women's, and I'm very thankful to Jamie and everyone over there that let me play with them. However, I just didn't feel right not practicing with them and then being able to play games. So then the guys we were all hanging out, and I was like, what if I made our new team? Like, what if I like rebrand everything, restructure everything, get a new coach, like kind of just start fresh. Like we had good bones, but let's start over. You know what I mean? And they all were like, you know what? Wait till the end of the season and yeah, let's have a meeting about it and let's listen. So then I had a meeting in April, and I was shocked by how many people actually showed up, and they all were like, Tristan, we back you 100%. Like, let's see what you got. Let's do it. And so I was like, all right. So I just kind of started a men's rugby team in May, and it's actually going really well right now. So it was really awesome to kind of get everything started. I went right to USA Rugby. I was like, please, and I talked to Evan. I was like, please help me, make this team official. Then we were trying to figure out like a name, and we were trying to figure out if we wanted to do more Treasure Coast or more Indian River. But a lot of the guys, it's Indian River technically is still Treasure Coast, but I also wanted to pay ode to Treasure Coast as well as Indian River. So we just kind of wanted to, rebrand, kind of refresh everything. And then we came with our Armada, just because obviously we're on the Treasure Coast, and instead of it being a pirate thing or like a treasure thing, we kind of just wanted to do like Armada, the fleet, the ship that we're all together. So kind of just went with it, and it works out pretty well. So we made our debut this past summer, and we actually got a lot of wins on the board, which was cool. We kind of got our name out there. A lot of people were like, oh yeah, like Treasure Coast, like they're excited to see that we're back or that we're new, and that it's kind of like, oh man, this is awesome. And so it's been cool having a bunch of guys come out. I have probably almost weekly that I have a new recruit out, or someone that's reaching out to me that's like, hey, like I used to play rugby, like can I come out? And I'm like, of course, like it's awesome. So we've been very fortunate with having, like, we're getting out there now, so people are able to find us more easily than I think they were before. So that's kind of it. So we have over like about 20 guys on the team, so we're kind of doing well. So I'm excited for the season. I'm very excited for the guys, and I'm thankful that we got to be D4 this season. So we're going to come out strong and just show who we are and what we're about. That's kind of it. I can't hear you, Ross.
Ross. Oh, we lost Ross.
So I assume there are quite a few former Indian River guys playing as well as new recruits.
Yeah, we have a couple of the old boys that are still playing, and I think you're probably familiar with Jock. Like he's been around forever.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Like we have a couple guys that have been a key part of Indian River Rugby Club since even when I started, and like just kind of we had some guys that. Are you lagging?
For a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, we have a couple old guys. We have some guys that moved away that actually moved back and are playing again, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So, but it's nice. We also have some new faces too, and younger guys. So my main goal is to make something that lasts and something that's for the newer generation, and just kind of teach them and have something that lasts for them on the Treasure Coast.
Are you also looking to have a women's team?
Yes, I am. So
how's that going?
I have women that reach out to me. I just feel like I can't put forth like my resources and like my kind of like I just feel like I can't focus on that right now. My main goal as of now is just to really make sure that we start our season strong. We have jerseys coming this week. We have sponsorships. We have a bunch of stuff that we have lined up for fundraising and raising money for the club. So I'm just kind of on that. And but yeah, definitely want to try to have a women's club. We actually have a youth team that's starting in January.
Really?
With Roy Monk. Yeah, they're going to use our name. So they'll be Treasure Coast Armada Youth. And it's kind of a U14 team. And Roy Monk is kind of going with that. So him and I forgot what school they're kind of going out of, but they're going to use our name, not necessarily like our resources, but at least have our name so that when they have a page and stuff, like we'll be linked with them. They just are kind of like a separate entity. So there will be a Treasure Coast youth team starting January and February this year.
Wow, that's really awesome.
So it's really exciting.
I'm gonna see Ross is having some problem. Ross, can you hear us? Why don't you log off and come in again? No sound.
Can't hear you.
I have to kick him out. So that's really great that you're going to start the youth. I think for any club, developing youth, it's good for the club because you get more people around you, and of course you're doing a service for the sport because all those little guys eventually going to be playing at some point. And
Exactly.
I did not know. So.
And then, like I said, the women's team is something that I'll try to focus more on probably in the new year. Right now, I'm just like trying to get money into the club and we finally just got our actual like practice field and a game field. Like I had to wait for the certificate of insurance and like a bunch of just paperwork that I've been waiting on forever. It took so long to get to me. So now that I have all that and I'll have more of a home base, then I'll be able to like, okay, yeah, come on out. And
are you the coach and the president?
No, Tommy Barnett is our coach. I'm just the president. I just oversee everything. I do need to get my coaching license, and then I'll probably coach the women's eventually. But I just, like I said, gotta get some resources. But yeah, Tommy is our coach.
Because it is really important for every team, and especially developing teams, to have as many coaches as you can.
Of course.
Right.
I definitely help our coach. I'll help. And if I'm there, like I'll help. I help newer players, and then we have a couple other foreign players that kind of help some of our guys, and we kind of just all help each other. So it's nice because since we do have some seasoned rugby players, it is nice to have that on the team with like a bunch of new. Like we have pretty much a whole new forward side, which is cool, but it's interesting. So
these are first time players, like no experience, really.
Yeah. I have a bunch of new players. We've been really working on them this whole summer, so they haven't even. They're hungry. They're definitely hungry to play. So I'm excited to see what they do. We have our first friendly October 8th with Pelicans, so that'll be a good time.
Great. Let's talk a little bit to Mr. Gavin McCleavely, an old friend of the podcast. How you doing, Gavin?
I'm good, mate. How are you? Good to see your ugly old face. How's it going?
Good. So, welcome to the union. You guys voted in.
Thankfully, yeah. They accepted me. I had to pay a few people. You know how it is.
I'm pretty sure about that. How is, we've already talked about your program. As Ross was saying, yeah, it is a little bit of a unique situation because we don't have many. I'm not sure if we have any college team that has like a paid coach taking care of the team.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure if UF does anything like that.
Maybe UCF was giving something, but stipend-wise, I don't know. I really don't know. But I got the impression that all of this is kind of a first at the level that St. Thomas is trying to do it anyway.
And how did this come about? How does a university decide, hey, let's do a rugby team?
Well, in this particular case, the story goes as follows: that the president's very pro rugby. A guy called David Armstrong. He's from up north. I think he's from the Cleveland area originally. He started Notre Dame College rugby program many years ago, and then I believe Thomas More after that, which is another quite successful university. And then about 4 years ago, he came down to Miami, and in amongst that, I don't know if he's been proactively looking for a rugby coach to get moving with it, but he's definitely pro rugby. So what happened is you know about the Florida Jaguares last year. We were doing those monthly tryouts. Yeah, well done, good job. So on those monthly tryouts, the guy from Thomas More, good friend of mine, we'd met many years ago at like these development summits in the USA National Development Summits, where I usually go speak about youth rugby or something like that. Met him, had a few beers, all of that. But then he was coming down to Miami for a round of golf with a very good friend. That's all he said to me. And he said, can I come by and take a look at the kids? Maybe I can get some high school kids to my university next year. I was like, absolutely, the more the merrier, come down. And the friend happened to be the president of St. Thomas University that he brought with him. So I guess they went and played golf, came over to Okapi where we were hosting the Jaguares game, and he was obviously impressed with 200 or so kids that were playing and training and getting ready for Jaguares. And he said to me, "Do you think you can recreate this at a university level?" And I was like, "Sure, it's Gavin. I'll wing it and make it up as I go along." So yeah, and we had a good conversation. We had a lunch at one point and sat down and talked about the reality of it, and yeah, convinced me to go over that. Literally, that's how it went.
And how is the reality of it going?
It's a lot more work. a lot of work, mate. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, no problem. I got this, and now I'm up to my eyeballs in paperwork. But
and are you limited 100% of kids have to be from the university, right?
Yeah, you have to be. Yeah, you have to be a
100%.
Yeah, you have to be a university student there and playing in the university. Ross is an alumni, which I didn't realize actually. Dr. Bell says
yes.
Says hello, Ross.
Jan Bell, legendary teacher there.
Yeah,
and administrator of the sports administration program. Yes.
Yeah, no, she's phenomenal. I was sat with her in her office a couple of weeks ago, and your name popped up, and I was like, how did that happen? And then realized that you had told me previously that you're alumni of that school. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, she does all of the eligibility stuff within the school and making sure the kids have got the right paperwork in place so that they can play sports. Yeah,
cool. That school's changed a lot. I mean, when I went there was no gym, there was no football field, there was no turf of any kind. Now it's all turfed over and all sorts of fancy buildings there as well. How many kids have you got so far, Gav?
Well, so what we've done is they only brought me in a few months ago, so the recruiting for August was obviously difficult. But I did manage to get a handful of kids in there. Some good players. A couple of guys from Argentina. A scrum half from Zimbabwe. He was on the national team for Zimbabwe. Couple of transfers, and then a couple of on the girls' side as well. And then it looks like I've got about another 10 or so coming in January, which some of them are transfers and some of them are just kids like Southern Hemisphere, where they finish school in November so they can come in as freshmen in January, which will be fun. But it's all very new. The nice thing is that we've got the athletic director and all of the other sports are on board. So any kids that don't quite make their selection for their sport, whether it's wrestling, American football, soccer, the regular sports we would associate where they can transfer the skill set over to rugby, they're all kind of post rugby if they don't quite make the cut for their team. So we're gonna, I get access to all of those guys, and they're, track and field and several others. So they're all coming out to the trainings as well. So I was quite surprised how many people came out. I'm regularly getting sort of 15 to 25 guys and girls showing up for the training sessions over the last 2-3 weeks. So it's kind of nice. Yeah, it's exciting.
Charlie, we might need a mercy rule for D4 at this rate.
No, I mean, it's a lot of work. Obviously, a lot of these guys and girls coming into the team are new. So I'm literally teaching the basics like I did 8 years ago with Okapi. It's kind of starting from zero again, but it's nice because with the sprinkling experienced players in amongst it, then obviously they're my assistant coaches, right? They immediately can sort of slot in and help the kids with the basics. So it's kind of nice. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. I've got an assistant coach coming in very soon, pretty much next week, I imagine, once the paperwork's done. And I've got myself an intern as well.
Who's that? Who is the assistant coach?
I can't divulge until the paperwork's signed, just in case.
Oh my God.
You get me on next week.
The first Florida rugby team to ever have a media blackout.
Yes, exactly. But it's all about creating the atmosphere, guys. Come on, you know me.
The life of South Florida. Gavin, your main job is just going to be to keep all these kids away from South Beach. That's really what you're getting paid for.
That's how I sell it. I entice them in, saying you're right next to Miami. You're close enough to get in trouble if you want to, but I'm not actually allowed to let them get in trouble. That's exactly how I picture it.
I was going to say it's definitely the closest school to Tootsie's, which is probably more of a more of a threat than South Beach, I would say, to some of these college kids. Well, it's exciting stuff. I'm glad to see Treasure Coast back because back in the 90s when I moved here, Treasure Coast was a good little program, and then it kind of faded away, and Indian River came up, and now they're sort of fading away. And it's an area I know there's a big catchment area. Tristan, what would you say your catchment area is for Treasure Coast?
I mean, we range from like essentially Vero Beach to about Stewart, so kind of. But most of my guys, probably half, if I could split it, it would be Vero, and then Fort Pierce, like Port St. Lucie, mainly Port St. Lucie. So it's one of those things, like we have multiple counties kind of in Treasure Coast, so we could pull from a lot. But it's just it's kind of a weird demographic, because you have Vero, who's kind of older people, and then Port St. Lucie, that's a little bit younger, but. That's the difficult part, is like, because we're trying to find a place that's like a healthy medium to get people that are south that can come up, and vice versa. So that's been like the only one that's a little bit trying to get like a common ground for everybody. But we kind of picked Fort Pierce essentially is like our home.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have the population density up there, so you guys have to go a little wider and spread your area there to make sure you have enough talent. But no, it's great to see.
Yeah.
And Gavin, where do you see St. Thomas in 5 years? Because this is obviously this is sort of a first thing that we haven't had a private school put some serious funding behind a rugby program. UM have sort of been here and there, and Eckerd have produced some good talent. I'm not sure how much money the school puts into that program, scholarship wise. But where do we see St. Thomas in 5 years?
Well, basically, to put myself under the pressure in the conversation, basically national titles in 5 years, literally.
In what division though? That's the other thing.
I mean, yeah, at that point, I won't ask too many more questions. I'll just take what I can get, I guess. But a national title in Tiddlywinks I'll be happy with that. But that was the conversation, and Mr. President Armstrong's extremely ambitious, and he usually gets what he wants. He's an excellent guy. He does a good job wherever he goes. The schools become successful. So yeah, Florida initially, this Division 4.
FCC, D4, and then perhaps FC after. Okay.
Yeah, and then go from there and see where we end up. There's all kinds of rumors around other schools going from Florida into this, the national setups and traveling, but there's not much funding for it. So I think we definitely got to look at that in the next couple of years on both the male and the female side of things. But yeah, we want to. They're very serious. Their American football team, they've only been around really for 4 years, and they're
nationally ranked.
Yeah, already. They travel all over the place. They played yesterday and won, and they make a big song and dance, and they make it entertaining, and the kids come out to the game. They do things right.
Do they provide you dancers for your team also?
No, that's just me. They give me the dress, they give me the pom poms, and I go do that.
That's what Tootsie's for, Charlie. Well, we need to get perhaps an exhibition of some kind at halftime or after the game, and say here's 10 minutes of rugby. You're not tearing up AstroTurf.
Yeah, no, they're all about promoting it and getting the kids to watch the game as well. So yeah, they've got they're just very proactive with involving the entire campus, because it's a smaller school. It helps. The kids haven't got much to do. It's kind of like suburban, isn't it? And then you kind of have to get in your car and go somewhere. But so many of the kids are from elsewhere that they have to they have to put it in a situation where the kids have got to be entertained daily almost. So part of that is the sports programs. I think there's 3,000 kids on campus, and about 1,000 of them are athletes in one sport or other. So it's very much a very tight community there. It's kind of cool. Since I've never been in that environment before, so it's really interesting for me to sort of see it from the inside. Previously, obviously, I'm sending kids into the schools. Do I want to do 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and now being on the inside of it. Very cool, very exciting times in North Miami.
Good stuff. Well, Tristan and Gavin, thanks for joining us tonight on TFRO. Best of luck on your recruiting and heading into January. Hopefully get those numbers up and play some competitive rugby in D4 this coming season.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Cheers, guys. Very much.
Cheers.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Is my connection all right now, Charlie?
Good. No, it's good. It's good. It's good.
Right. Well, let's. We talked about the newbies. Let's get to our teams that are making moves. And Charlie, who do you can introduce as well?
We have Graham Noob from Pelicans, head coach.
Hey, Graham.
Let me unmute him.
Hey, gents, how are you?
Hello, sir.
Graham, while we have you, give us a bit of your rugby history and how long you've been with St. Pete, etc.
Sure. Where to start? So you'll hear the accent's a bit different. Originally from South Africa.
Good.
As a lot of us end up finding ourselves on the side of the pond. And played rugby pretty much most of my life. Had a small stint with Western Province and the Stormers in my playing days. It's been a bit of time with the Ospreys in Wales. And was very fortunate to be a part of quite a prominent and well-known club in South Africa called False Bay Rugby Club, which is based out of Cape Town. And during my time there, they went on to win the state championship and also the national championship, which is a great experience understanding club rugby, amateur rugby, and the kind of structures that are required for success. Which
for
is,
sure.
And actually, funny enough, they went again and won the state championship yesterday again. So they're on the up and up and doing well. But like most of us, when we finish our playing days, we go into coaching and spend some time coaching locally back in South Africa. And then more recently, helped coach the Zimbabwe national team.
Nice.
Time with them. We had a World Cup campaign to qualify for next year's Rugby World Cup in Marseille in France earlier this year. And unfortunately, we lost out to the mighty Namibians, as strong as they are. So we came unstuck against him in the semi-final. But yeah, like Gavin had also mentioned, Gavin's got one of the players from Zimbabwe. He's currently going to go through his college program. So
Awesome.
A lot of talent coming out of that part of the world. And more recently, my wife and I immigrated to the US. We're living and working out here, and found myself in the beautiful town of St. Pete and in the Bradenton area. And it was a no-brainer to join and be a part of a local rugby club. And that's kind of where my journey to the Pelicans began. And initially was thinking of playing and coaching, and it's kind of been back and forth. But met some really great guys there, a really nice committee, a strong committee. And they approached me and asked me if I wouldn't mind helping out and heading up the coaching going into the 2023 season. And that's where the journey is. So I spent a bit of time with them in 2022, but had coaching commitments with Zimbabwe. And now that my schedule's opened up, I've got a lot more time to throw my energy into what is a very happy and up and coming club here.
Yeah, it's a pretty serious rugby resume. Pelicans have been coming up the last 2 years, I would say, at least, Charlie. And then before the pandemic, they had a few rough years. D3 was dominated by the likes of Brevard and Gainesville and Palm Beach, but Pelicans now really starting to come strong. And talk, Graham, about the discussions about making the move to D2 and having that second side as well in D4.
Yeah, I think it's massive for the club. I think there are kind of two areas that you need to look at. There's one, obviously, you always want to be competitive and go up in the rankings. And in order to do that, kind of history and statistics will show that a kind of a state-winning team or team you potentially want to take to nationals, you're going to need depth of anywhere from 40 to 50 athletes in your squad, and that comes with injuries and players moving. So naturally, if you want to progress, you need to make sure that you've got at least two teams in your league. And I suppose that's the ambition with having a second team in D4. And then in the same breath, as much as we're all competitive and we're ambitious, we're a community club, we're a working man's club, and we want to provide a home for as many rugby-loving people as possible for anyone that wants to try the game. So the fact that we've got a second team where we can give guys not just training sessions, but match their practice is massive. And they can actually play games. Guys don't want to rock up to 30 preseason training sessions and not play a rugby game. So, affording them the opportunity to play will be great for the club. And I think the fact that Pelicans on our committee worked really hard behind the scenes, and as you mentioned, the Pelicans have been doing quite well of late. And the opportunity to be promoted to D2 is massive, as it's also it's more attractive and appealing for players. The fact that you can come in and play for a D2 team in St. Pete. So I think that it definitely is a bit of a magnet and helps attract a bit more talent.
Yeah, because Charlie, Pelicans were in D2 for a while, right? I remember.
A long time ago.
My memory's terrible. It's been a few years, but Graham, what are your thoughts on Florida rugby as a whole since you've been here? Where do you see the positives and where do we see things we need to improve? And obviously, you haven't been here too long yet, but you've seen enough perhaps to give me with your background, to give me a good judgment.
I'm very careful in kind of putting any judgment, especially when it's early days. And it's also difficult to gauge because it's I've had a bit of exposure to the rest of kind of rugby across the US. The one thing I can say is the one thing that has really struck me is just how passionate guys are for the game, and how, you know, it's almost like they want to jump into anything that's going to help them advance their playing careers, and people who want to add value are more than happy to put their hand up. And sometimes it's just about welcoming them, making them feel important, giving them sometimes a role and a duty. And I think kind of with the time that I've been involved and with our committee, we've tried to do that. And our training numbers have gone up. The amount of coaches that we've got involved now have gone up. And I've really, it's been exciting to see when you open your arms up to anyone that wants to be involved in rugby, how many people actually do end up coming.
Yeah, how many coaches do you guys have, Graham? Because obviously we've seen some clubs attempt to have this set up. I know the Tridents currently have it set up. Trying to think who else, Charlie. Tridents. I mean, it's still been semi-successful, but we've obviously had, you know, players that would come out and play for the A side, then the B side. But you know, how many coaches do you guys have, and how many players are you looking to get? And what are the noisy neighbors across the bay think about all this?
Well,
that's the most important.
Yeah, we've put together. We're also putting together a youth structure as well.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yes.
Yeah, headed up by Nick Fraser, and Dave McFadden's involved as well. And so we're looking to probably have about anywhere from 2 to 3 coaching staff there. And then with the senior group, at the moment we've got 6 coaching staff.
Awesome.
And the thinking and idea behind that is to have specialists in their roles. So it's making sure that we've got multiple voices and different voices. So, you know, your guys are coming down to 2 training sessions a week, which means it's 4 hours of training. And after, especially a working man's club, after a long day and a hard day where your boss is grilling you and you've had a hard day and you come down to training, to listen to 1 or 2 voices for a full 2 hours can be quite taxing. So I think the idea is the more voices you've got that are hyper-focused in various areas of the training session, just makes it a bit more entertaining for the players. And I think any rugby player loves to go to a training session that's well structured and well run. And that's the thinking behind having multiple coaches, is that each coach can come down and train for his portion of the training session. And I think what ends up happening, because a player sees their structure, he almost feels well looked after. And is maybe a reason why they end up coming back and maybe not disappearing for 2-3 weeks, and then we'll see you in 4 or 5 weeks time, maybe closer to the league. So as it stands, that's our structure, and we're really excited with our youth development as well at the moment.
No, it's exciting stuff. It also helps balance out D2 a little bit with North versus South. I know Naples are kind of stuck in the middle a little bit there, but no, it's great to see Pelicans coming back to prominence. And it was from what I've heard, before I came here in the 80s, especially, they were, you know, a very powerful club, and obviously getting back. It all starts at the top. Charlie and I always discuss this. You know, if you've got things right at the top with the coaching and the board, it will trickle down eventually. So I'm happy to see the Pelicans coming around. Charlie, anything before we let Graham go?
I just wanted to ask you about the youth program. How important do you think it is for the club? And as you may have seen here in the States, we have, which is sort of different than any other country for the most part, is if you have a youth program, you always have the college age group gap. So you can develop your players until, you know, U19s, and then basically they're gone.
Sure.
So in one sense, it's like they don't really stay in the club. But what are the positives of having youth? And I'm really glad that you guys started it, because it's.
Yeah, completely. I think, I don't think that's just an American problem. I think that's a universal problem with that. I think amateur rugby clubs have in rugby. There's always a tough transition having a youth program, and how much does that filter into your senior program, and how many of them end up staying, and it's exactly leading to your point of that college gap. I think the exciting thing for me about the youth program is, one, it can be an introduction to rugby early on for a lot of people, a vehicle or outlet for a young kid who wants to try something different, maybe might not excel at another sport, but can give this sport a try. And as we all know very well, you don't necessarily need to be the most talented sports person, but in a rugby team, you'll find a place.
Yeah.
So again, that is the focus of our youth group, that we want to welcome as many people as possible, and then hopefully put in structures there that when they progress to the senior level, there's not a lot of recoaching that needs to take place. We're very fortunate. We've got a good relationship with Eckert College, which is close by. One of our coaches, Gerard Smearden, who heads up the program there, is also involved with coaching our team and our backline. And he's a great guy, and he does a wonderful job with the guys out there. And so
Isn't he from South Africa also?
He's, funny enough, also from South Africa.
Yeah, he is. Right?
Taking over, Charlie.
Yeah, we'll just be having bras and eating a lot of biltong down this part of the world. But he's done a great job there, and a lot of the guys have naturally progressed into the Pelicans. And I think the importance of the youth, I don't necessarily, in my previous experience, I don't think clubs have understood the importance of it, because it becomes a feeder to your club. It becomes a vehicle for exposure, and we're in an amateur environment. Why would you not want to provide a platform for young kids to want to enjoy a sport, and why would you not put that together? So we've definitely got, with Nick Fraser, Dave McFadden, and one or two other gents, we definitely got the right people involved to make it a happy place, and hopefully a transitional program into the seniors.
Great.
Exciting stuff up there. I think some of these other D2 programs that have been, so successful over the last 5 years may have to keep an eye on these boys over in the Bay there, under this leadership of Graham. It's a pretty serious rugby resume there. Well, Graham, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. I'm sure we'll be talking as the season goes on. When's your first friendly?
So our first friendly will be against Treasure Coast, the new boys on the block. And yeah, to be quite honest, we're just looking forward to a good outing, to have a good run out, and then connecting with other clubs. I think that's important. As much as we're ambitious, you got to make sure that you build relationships and friendships, and that'll be definitely a big part of our ethos. So we look forward to them hosting us, and we look forward to being gracious visitors and enjoying our time down there.
Great stuff, Graham. Appreciate you joining us, and best of luck this season.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your time, guys, and thanks for everything that you do for Florida Rugby.
Yeah, cheers, Graham. We're having fun, mate. That's what it's all about. Getting the word out there.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, from one man with a pretty serious rugby resume to a man who doesn't have a very serious playing rugby resume. He will admit to that. But listen, he's putting together a pretty serious officiating resume. And our special guest this evening joining, I don't know where he is. Where are you tonight, sir? Bring him in.
Hey.
Cisco Lopez.
Hello.
Where are you this evening? Back in the ATL, or are you
back in ATL finally after 2 weeks? 2 weeks in Cape Town, and then I just got back.
Right?
Oh, terrible! What a terrible experience.
Yeah, and then just got back on Monday, earlier this week. So
exciting stuff. So yeah, well, obviously we know why you were down there, and most people watching know why you were down there. But why don't you fill us in and just talk about the experience? Oh, Charlie's got something to say first.
Yeah, I just have a very important question. Did you bring my ball?
Unfortunately, they have police officers near every loose ball. They make sure that they come back and nobody gets any balls.
Charlie's such a freeloader when it comes to balls. Charlie,
come away with them.
Just go on the website and buy one, you cheap. so and so.
I did actually see they had a couple in the airport, and I was like, oh, and then my luggage was all the way full, and I was like, Charlie's gonna kill me, but it'll be okay.
I want a stolen one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. I was like, no, Charlie doesn't want to run with the ball. Charlie wants, exactly. One.
I can't believe you asked him, Charlie.
I always ask him, man.
Cisco's making his Rugby World Cup Sevens debut, and you're asking him to steal a ball. But I spoiled the surprise there. But Cisco, tell us about your experience down there in Cape Town doing the Rugby World Cup Sevens.
Yeah. So super, super lucky. I was, had like a great honor to represent the U.S. As a referee for the women's tournament in the Rugby World Cup Sevens. Got to do some amazing games. Some of the standout moments for me were I got to referee Colombia versus New Zealand women. And so there's this amazing score by the Colombian women that, like, as it was happening, so it's just like, it was like a classic Colombia try. Like, I remember I got the assignment the day before, and I was like, all right, I have to remember Colombia, like the kick's always on for them. So just be prepared, watch out for players in front, watch out for defenders or players from the other team taking out the space for the chasers. And so I just remember a couple of kicks had already flown through the game. And I think this was the first play of the second half. And so Colombia gets the ball, kicks it downfield, and is just like completely alone. It's just like one Colombian player, one Black Fern tracking across. Both of them miss the ball. The ball ends up kind of bobbling. Somebody kicks it. Same person picks it up right on the goal line, scores right in front of all these fans. And that's like the loudest environment that honestly I've ever been in. Because that was like the World Cup for those women to score against, a star-studded team that honestly like could have won the final, right? Like they weren't able to equalize it with that last kick. But I mean, a legendary team. A lot of those women on that Black Ferns team are going to the World Cup down in New Zealand right now. And so it was real special to be a part of that game. I got to referee Madagascar's first try on a World Rugby stage event. They scored against China. In another kind of like crazy, mind-blowing, like it's happening kind of fashion. So no, it was a lot of fun. I got to be involved in like a lot of really special games. And I think the craziest thing is, right, we had the women's tournament and the men's tournament at the same time. It's the first time I've been involved with the Sevens in that kind of an environment. And it was just really cool to have a huge, big old family of referees, right? Because we talk about it and, we always think about the team aspect from the player perspective, the coach perspective. And I've talked about this a number of times on TFRO, where for me, and one of the reasons why I love Sevens, there's a real special family with the referees. Like it's a real particular kind of person who becomes a referee, and we're weirdos in a lot of ways. And so that friendship that you make with other referees is really special because there's so few people like us. And so to have a big old family of referees between the men's competition and the women's competition was a lot of fun. And then actually, funny enough too, so I was there for 1 week for the World Cup Sevens. And then the following week, I was in Stellenbosch, so just a little bit up the road, in the vineyards, the real nice part. Doing a high performance match officials academy at the Stellenbosch Academy of Sport, which is where the Springbok Sevens train, as well as the women's national netball team and a professional soccer team as well. So, and there it was a tier 2 focused match officials academy led by a former World Rugby referee manager, Alain Roland, and recently retired professional referee Stu Barry, who used to referee in the URC and Super Rugby. So they ran it. And there was a bunch of tier 2 referees, some people from Hong Kong, Tunisia, Fiji, Zimbabwe. So a whole other kind of family sort of setting there too, which was really special. So as always, there was great rugby and some really cool cultural exchange stuff. But at the end of the day, it's always about the people, right? So
it is. When you and I met up at Life, was that 2 or 3 years ago? It was Colombia was there that day, I think, weren't they? Getting ready for something.
Yeah, they were getting ready. I think at the time they were preparing for
it was Olympic qualifying, maybe
Olympic qualifiers. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah,
it's funny that I remember that. Well, that's awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, last year, now you were selected to be on the circuit, but you didn't get to start as many. You didn't get to go to as many. You were sort of left, and you seemed like the odd one out. How are we looking for 23? Are you going to be in Hong Kong in November?
Well, I think I don't know how much I can say. Decisions have been made.
Damn, man.
Okay.
I don't know how much I
Everybody's-
can say, but I'll certainly be busy next year. Is I think what I
Okay.
think maybe I'm allowed to say that because they haven't. So again, the decisions have been made, but they haven't been formalized.
They haven't posted them yet.
They haven't
No,
posted them
okay.
exactly, and so I don't want to jump the gun on anything. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to next year for sure.
Okay, listen, you be nice to the Teros, which are gonna be on the circuit
That's
next
right.
year.
Yeah,
you're not-
congratulations!
you were-
Hey,
You will not
and
be
they
invited if I see you
and
screwing them
how-
up. Okay.
And how well did they play against the United States in that
Damn.
World Cup game? How well did they play?
Wow,
And
yeah.
everybody, all of the referees and people from back home, right, were saying stuff about like, oh, and I can't believe that we lost to Uruguay, da da da. And I was like, Uruguay is a really good team, actually, man. We're lucky that we didn't lose by more, honestly. I mean, again, like the number of injuries that we had, and I think a little bit like real tough to have that many injuries, not perform as well in LA, and then have to travel all the way to Cape Town, which is pretty remote, actually. I got to experience that firsthand. 16 hours from Atlanta to Johannesburg straight, and then
Damn.
a couple hours in the airport, 2 hours to Joburg or to Cape Town. So imagine from a player perspective, not performing well and then having to go through all that to then perform in a knockout only type environment. But yeah, it's really cool to see Uruguay where they honestly deserve to be, because they make the World Cup every year for 15s, very competitive, very strong rugby culture, and they deserve to be on the world stage year in, year out. So I'm sure that they will not be relegated the next year, 100%. They'll be very competitive.
Charlie, who did they lose to in the final, Charlie? I forgot. In the challenge final, that is.
Against England.
It was England, but we will also mention that England lost to Ireland in the first round and completely wrecked our chance, which is it's a very strange format. You lose the first game, you're done in your chase for the cup, but we did end up winning the challenge. So with this said, Cisco, obviously your rugby life now focused on sevens. You're going to miss 15s. It's like becoming an American when they tell you to give up your other country's passport.
Give the passport.
But you don't really do it. So you'll miss 15s, I assume, a little bit, but you seem to love sevens.
Yeah, no, I love my sevens. Everybody knows that. And I think, like I've spoken about a lot of times, I think the physical challenge as well as the mental challenges is what I try to rise up to. And then what helps when that doesn't go the direction you want it to is that you've got a lot of shoulders to cry on in the locker room and stuff. But no, hopefully, I mean, next year should still be a good year for 15s, real busy. It seems like I won't miss out on that many weeks. Later this season, we've got our fall ARP season, ARP South season. So I've got a couple of matchups coming up. I think I have on October 8th, I believe it's Life versus HTX. And then the weekend after, Life versus Rugby ATL Academy. So the local derby. So those will be good. And then we'll see what happens with the professional season in the spring, but we're looking forward to that. Like real good chance for a couple more runouts. So not quite. I think it's really interesting, right? Because you can specialize in sevens, but it's all refereeing. So if you
that's good that they let you do that.
Yeah. I think there's been a little bit of a change in mentality in the last couple of years, where specifically from that perspective of, well, it's still refereeing. There's still things that you can take from 15s into sevens that can make you a better sevens ref. And there's a lot of things from sevens you can take into 15s that can make you a better 15s referee. So they have a lot of good crosstalk. The tough thing sometimes is going between maybe the real specialized high performance international sevens and then real specialized high performance 15s, because that's a really starkly different game. But to go from semi-professional 15s to pro sevens, I think is a little bit easier for sure.
When are we going to see you reffing a final in one of these HSBC tournaments?
We'll see. I mean, I think thankfully the good thing is becoming a core member of the group is, I think, one of the first steps towards that.
Yeah, of course.
And then I think it's about being consistent, taking the feedback, being real smart with review, really, how do you say, not delicate, but intentional with review, showing them that like you're trying to learn, because I think it's just as much off field as on field of the appointments that you get. And not all, to be fair as well, and they say this very honestly to us referees, the management, not every assignment is given off of performance. some assignments are given off of experience, some assignments are given off of, we want to see how you deal with this situation. And so on the one hand, I would love to referee a final, and that would be a dream come true. On the other hand, I also don't want to chase refereeing a final and miss out on all the learnings that I could take, again, going into a 15 season or a referee kind of thing in general, like my referee experience or my referee toolbox. So hopefully, I mean, it would be really great, but at the end of the day, it's not my decision. If it were my decision, I would have done it a long time ago. But yeah, hopefully soon. But yeah, thankfully, becoming a core member of the group's a big step in the right direction, I think. So
the only downside, Charlie, is that if Cisco is going to ref a final, that means the USA can't be in it. You're allowed to ref a Mexico final, Cisco? Not that we're worried about Mexico 7.
I actually am allowed to referee the Mexico team, which is, and I've made sure I've been like, you guys know that I'm Mexican American, right? And they're like, yeah, but you're not. They're like, well, you didn't referee or you didn't play in Mexico, kind of thing. So obviously you have, and that's happened before, right? Like, right, there's a referee who is of Kiwi, like he's from New Zealand. But he began refereeing, and most of his involvement in rugby actually from that perspective was in Hong Kong. And so they've actually did allow him to referee New Zealand a couple times. And then oddly enough, every time he refereed them, they lost, he said. So, you never know. You don't know what you're going to get when you get the referee from the country that they're refereeing.
And listen,
I
what
will
about,
let you ref Miami? I'll just tell you, I will let him ref Miami.
Exactly.
Yeah, good.
What about reffing one of our games once a year? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know that I end up coming down to Miami pretty often.
You did that last year. You did one game here. I remember.
Yeah. Last year I did one game, and so yeah, I mean, if I'm in town and I can hit up, Ross, you're still doing the assignments, I'm assuming.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Nobody's ever going to allow me to give that up. So,
so I could just let Ross know, and then do a good Miami game. That's good fun. I mean, it's great. I think listening to, I'm so sorry, I forgot the name of who was it that was just speaking right now from Pelicans.
Oh, Graham. Yeah,
Graham. Yeah, hearing him talk about his approach to, it's a working man's game, it's an amateur game. Like, that's the fun part about, for me now, of like refereeing grassroots rugby is, it's everyone's doing it because they love it, right? They're not doing it because they're trying to get the paycheck out of it, and they're not doing it because, they've figured out that their life is going in this direction. So, right, like I was talking to a referee earlier who refereed an ARP South game, and, people are saying stuff like that in feedback afterwards of like, these are people's jobs on the line. These are people's jobs on the line. And there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of honor that comes from being responsible for those kinds of games. But there's a lot of fun that comes out of refereeing people who are there because, primarily and pretty much only because, they want to be there. They love to be there. They want to create those relationships with other teams, with other players, and create like a little bit of a legacy, right? Because even hearing you guys talk about how, back when you moved into Florida, Ross, that Pelicans used to be this real strong team, and kind of the history's changed, but now there's a new chapter that they're hopefully going to begin on, and that's really special to be a part of too. So I would love to. So if I'm down and I'm free, and I'll email Ross, and it'll be great.
You know he will. Unlike his dad, we just got to get his dad back out there again. But
talk to your dad, man.
The biggest thing, right? 2024 Olympics in Paris. If you do somehow get there, will you get a tattoo? That's my last question to you.
I love it. That's so funny because obviously I don't know who people do. I have a lot of tattoos now. I have a decent number of tattoos. So now it's kind of one of those where it's like, well, as someone who gets tattoos, would you get? And of course, the answer is then absolutely, 100%.
Excellent.
100% I would.
I don't know if I would get. Your dad better too, because he was so close to the Olympics, right?
Yep. Yeah. He qualified for, I think it was the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul, or this might have actually been before they distinguished between summer and winter. So 1988, he qualified for the Olympic standard time in the 400-meter hurdles, which is pretty fast. Like, you got to, like, that's elite level. That's world class, right? That's basically right. Like, you have like your Boston marathons where you have to run another marathon in a certain time to be able to go, because everyone wants to run Boston, right? So same thing. Everybody wants to run to the Olympics, but obviously there has to be some kind of cutoff of, that's not quite the standard, right? The Olympic standard. So Dad ran the Olympic standard time, but of course, 1988 Seoul, very far from Mexico City. And unfortunately, the Mexican Federation for Track and Field wanted him to run a couple seconds faster to make it out of his heat, maybe stuff like this.
Right.
And so unfortunately they didn't send him because although he had met the Olympic standard time, he hadn't met the faster time actually that the Mexican Federation wanted him to. So yeah, he missed out on the Olympics by literally a couple of seconds. And that's elite sport, which is crazy. That's elite sport. Yeah. Comes down to a couple of seconds.
Well, I know it seems like a long way away, but you know, at your age especially, it's going to come around quicker than you know it. So
in a blink of an eye. No, I mean, it'll like this whole past year, which has been whirlwind and crazy. First HSBC tournaments, got to go to the World Cup Sevens, MLR, got to referee my first MLR game, got to be a part of an MLR final. It's gone like that. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, now time to do it. Time to do something again, right? Time to go for the next journey around the sun. So really looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, we're all very excited. That never gets old, Charlie, seeing Cisco on TV. You think after a while, we've seen him do this and the MLR, but it never gets old seeing him on TV. We're very proud of you here in Florida. I think he's catching up with Perry Baker, Charlie. I think is the most famous rugby playing Floridian. He did play rugby in Florida, so he's still a rugby playing Floridian.
I have video of that. Yeah, I have video.
Yeah.
Oh
absolutely.
Man,
release the highlight reel. Hey, release the highlight reel. I gotta get a sponsorship.
Awesome stuff. Well, thanks for joining us, Cisco, as always. I know you're a very busy man. Go ahead, Charlie.
For some reason, when I'm watching, these tournaments, he always seems to be the best ref. I don't know why.
Listen. So, hey, yeah, it's you know why? Because I learned everything from Charlie and my dad and Ronnie and Ron.
Listen, Charlie, if you're going to go to Paris in 2024, are we going to commit right now? If Cisco is there, we're going to Paris in 24.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to get my ball because I think he's not gonna get it for me. So
no,
Charlie's gonna be running around the stands trying to catch one.
That's a tournament where I'll run out the stadium. I'll fight a police officer. I'm taking the ball if I end up there. Jeez.
All right, Charlie, we're committing to it today. TFRO at the Olympics in 2024 in Paris. Yeah. It's not that far. It's been a lot further than Paris. So
it's a lot closer to Cape Town, let me tell you.
Right, maybe Spirit will be flying to Paris by 2024. Oh, sorry, JetBlue. Yeah. It'll be JetBlue by then. Sorry, I forgot about that. But great stuff, Cisco, as always, mate. And we'll continue to follow your progress. And yes, listen, I'll be watching the Hong Kong Sevens in November, regardless. And I better be seeing you there. So you don't have to say yes or no, but I'll be watching it anyway. Thanks as always, mate.
No, of course, always good talking to you guys. Thanks
for good work.
I'm really happy to see you guys bringing this back with the beginning of the season and stuff like that, and really hoping that everybody continues to tune in and be, because I think this is the best part. Again, like I've always said this, that what has cohered the Florida rugby community has always been, like the work that Charlie does, having the videos, having people talk about it, and I think it's such a weirdly big state. Having stuff like this just brings everything together in like a really awesome way. So thank you guys for what you do for the game in Florida, because I think it makes a massive difference.
I appreciate it, mate. Yeah, we have fun doing it. As long as we're still having fun, we'll keep doing it.
Exactly.
All right, Cisco. See you, mate.
Take care,
man.
Bye.
Always good to have Cisco.
What a legend. We just got to keep checking in with him every now and again and make sure. So we'll be waiting for that announcement, which I'll assume will be coming in the next few weeks, about whether Cisco is on the circuit for 2022, 23.
I'm pretty sure
23, so I guess it is an official
he's going to be on
2023 season. Well, good stuff, Charlie. We got to meet a couple of new teams. We got to meet a couple of teams making the move. Graham Newt with it. Listen, I didn't know that this is the kind of stuff, right? You find out. That's a pretty impressive rugby resume.
Wow. Yeah.
He's bringing that to the Pellies, who are starting to come up the last couple of years. And Boca, Tridents, Naples, Tampa may have to watch out here in their first season back in D2. All right. Well, I'm not sure what we're doing next time, but maybe a couple of weeks we'll do something. We'll figure it out. We can talk. We've had a couple of discussions, but we'll be back soon. It's probably November. Oh no, October. Next weekend's in October anyway. So we'll say next month, Charlie. We'll see you guys back here. Thanks as always for your hard work behind the scenes. Thanks for everybody joining us tonight. Tristan, Gavin, as well as Graham and Cisco. And we'll see you guys next time on TFRO.
Thank you, Ross.
Cheers, Charlie. Sorry about the technical difficulties earlier.
Oh my God! For a moment, I thought I was lost.
You were on. You were going solo.
Yeah.
I always forget to restart. I just need to restart before every episode. That's the best.
That's when I appreciate you know what you do, because it's not easy, man. You do a great job.
Please. Just don't ask me to go play any more 15s anytime soon. I think my knee's about to fall off. I'm going to go to the doctor this week if it doesn't get any better. But good stuff. I got to run to work as always. But
yeah,
good stuff. Like, see you soon.
Bye bye.
Cheers, everybody.